Greetings again, fellow souls. Let's take off from where we left it last time. We were on chapter 1 of Ashthavakra Gita, and we had done the first 4 verses of the dialogue between King Janak and Ashtavakra. So we will proceed from there onwards now. We come to the 5th verse. Ashtavakra uvacha natvam vipradiko varno Nakshrami nakshagochara asangyosi nirakaro vishvasakshi sukhi bhava. Here, Ashtavakra says, in this verse, he says, you do not belong to the Brahman or any other caste. You are not at any stage of life, ashram, which is the 4 ashrams, nor are you anything that can be perceived through the senses. You are unattached and formless. You are the witness of everything, so you need to rejoice and be happy. So let's just understand this in a little bit of detail. Let me give you a little background about what Ashtavakra is referring to here in context of India. At that time, when this scripture was captured with the dialogue between King Janaka and Ashtavakra. So in ancient India, the caste system and ashramas pervaded the several aspects of social life. It was, there was these 4 different ashrams and 4 different castes that were there prevalent at that time. However, they were completely misunderstood, and I'll explain further. The caste system at that time dictated the type of occupation a person could pursue based on his individual personality and inclination. India's caste system had 4 main categories, which are also known as the varns or the varnas in English when we write it as varnas, based originally on personality or the dispositions, the mental dispositions. But later they were exploited by society, mostly by the upper caste, to meet its own selfish motives. Originally, let me just explain here that originally these 4 castes were considered to reflect the mental predisposition of a person or the tendencies of a person as to which state he was at, he or she was at. And however, the society at that time has misinterpreted these into 4 different kinds of castes, which people were put into depending on the kind of professions that they took on to. But originally it was meant to reflect the mental state or the mental predisposition of a person. And so the 4 classes were the Brahmins, who are the priests or the teachers, the Kshatriyas, the warriors or the administrators, Vaishyas, which were the farmers and traders, and the Shudra class, which is the artisans or workers or laborers. So these 4 ashrams, these are the 4 varnas, the caste system, the 4 different categories, and there were also 4 ashrams. So these 4 ashrams were Brahmacharya, which is the celibate student of the Vedas or Upanishads, the Grahast or the householder, the Vanaprast, which is the retired forest dweller, and the 4th ashram is the Sannyas, which is the renunciate. These are the 4 stages of an individual's journey on the way to liberation. Depending on what stage of life an individual was at and in which age bracket he fell, he was required to give preference and attention to the various duties relevant to that particular stage. Unfortunately, because the society did not understand these as mental predispositions, it was misunderstood and made into 4 different stages of life based on the age of the person. So if the normal life expectancy was 100 years, the first 25 years for your celibate life or the brahmacharya, the next 25 years till 50 was as a householder or a grahastha. The subsequent 25 years were as a vanaprastha, the one who goes into the forest and goes into the self-inquiry, or the forest dweller becomes a forest dweller. And the 4th is the renunciate, who leaves all the worldly pleasures and takes off into the mountains of the Himalayas. When we go into the deep practice of self-inquiry, Over time, we realize that the four varnas, the four caste systems, and the four ashrams, the four stages of life, are symbolic stages of the spiritual evolution of a sadhak. So when we go deeper and we understand the real meaning of these, when these were propagated, however they were completely misunderstood, they actually refer to the spiritual evolution of a spiritual aspirant or a sadhak. So let's understand it from the spiritual standpoint now. What were they originally meant to be? The four varnas represent the various states of vasanas, or the hidden or latent tendencies or habits, which a seeker comes face to face with during his spiritual journey inwards. So let's go to the first stage. The Shudra state is where the seeker performs various rituals outwardly with no deeper desire to dive within. He does not perform his sadhana or the spiritual practice with deep intensity or real feeling. He just does it because he believes he needs to do it as a duty. There is no great earnestness or real thirst from within. He's not a seeker at that stage. He remains identified with his body, his mind, and quickly digresses from the path when the latent tendencies emerge. So he's a kind of person who gives in to his sensory desires, his sensory requirements, and dips in and out of his spiritual practice. It's similar to a person who just as a matter of duty goes and attends church on a Sunday, or goes to the temple, does his ritual, and without any sentiment, any feeling behind it, and just thinks that he's done his duty and that's it. The next stage is the Vaishya state, in which the aspirant performs spiritual rituals and sadhana, which is a spiritual practice, in order to achieve or attain something in return. He is a trader whose only goal is to gain something from such actions. He holds on to the ignorant belief that he is the doer. So the sense of I, the ego, the mind, the doership is still very strong even within the Vaishya, definitely within the Shudra and the first category. And here the added factor is that there is a trade going on. He thinks that whatever spiritual practice he's doing his prayers, he's doing whatever he's doing, his spiritual practice, he is doing it to get something in his life, material comforts, happiness, joy, health, wealth, all of that. So it's a trade that is going on. So that's the Vaishya state. The Kshatriya state is one in which the real inner challenges emerge. So the Kshatriyas are referred to as the warriors or the fighters. So this is a little interesting stage. This is the cooking phase. When the aspirant reaches this state, he finds that his sadhana or his spiritual practice is stirring up various unwanted and often negative emotions which come to the surface, which is why the warrior element is there here, wherein you have to fight. He finds himself face to face with various inherent vasanas, which are his inherent tendencies, which are hidden beneath. He becomes increasingly aware of them, and they shake his confidence slightly. When he starts to see his negative side, it starts to unnerve him, and he starts to want to fight with those tendencies that he has within. The seeker has to be careful here, as he may get perplexed and confused. The presence of a spiritual teacher is most helpful during this stage. A spiritual teacher often creates some situations to shake a student's confidence. Such cooking lessons are not to harm him, but to make him stronger and to help him face his deepest fears. When the seeker transcends this state, he reaches the final one. So the warrior state, the Kshatriya state, is a very difficult one, wherein you're having to face your tendencies, and they're not easy to digest because you didn't think they existed within you, and the fight goes on, the internal conflict starts. That's why the whole warrior element comes in. And the final stage is the Brahman state, and this is the one in which the sadhak is firmly established in pure being, or the I am. Every mental tendency, which is the vasana, thought, and emotion, is known to be unreal. The individual I-ness too disappears, the ego identity disappears. Nothing touches the sadhak resting so deeply in his pure beingness. Everything rises and falls on the state of his pure beingness, but nothing affects his bliss, joy, and happiness. This is the state where he starts to enjoy his beingness. Now we've spoken about the varnas, let's talk about the ashrams here. So we talk about the brahmacharya ashram, which was the state of consciousness, which is in the nascent stage, which was akin to the person living from birth till 25 years, a celibate life, and enjoying his sadhana, getting into his initial stages of spiritual practice. Here, the aspirant starts with great fervor and enthusiasm in his sadhana. He's encouraged by the early results he gets on his path and experiences great joy and peace, and a natural sense of bliss. However, this state is not permanent, as his bliss and joy disappears, leaving the aspirant disillusioned, unhappy, and in most cases chasing the memory of such joy and bliss. So he gets glimpses of joy and bliss here, which makes him a little confused. So the aspirant does not understand that this is a part of his spiritual practice or sadhana, and only a step forward towards deeper understanding. Typically, the spiritual aspirant or the sadhak can experience oneness and get a few glimpses of bliss and silence, but they all emanate from the mind and only last for fleeting periods. All such experiences are pertaining to the waking state where the experiencer is still identified with the gross body. This represents the brahmacharya state of consciousness. So here we are talking about the four states of consciousness. So this is still where the body identity is still very strong within the spiritual aspirant. The next stage is the grihastha state, grihastha, which is the householder state, is one in which the mind goes through a variety of great experiences. It is the state in which one day may bring some wonderful phenomenon while another may be completely dry. It is a challenging state for the spiritual aspirant or the sadhak, as he will oscillate between good days and bad days. This state involves the subtle body. So the earlier one, which we talked about, brahmacharya, involved the gross body. This one involves the subtle body. So amazing magical phenomena like out-of-the-body experiences and astral projections are experienced by the sadhak in this state. At the same time, it is coupled with days where inner latent tendencies like past bad habits, fear, laziness, and lack of faith in the teacher or teachings are also felt, confusing the seeker and challenging his faith. So this is again a state of confusion where there are some good moments, some bad moments, and the person just moves on. The third stage is the vanaprastha state, which represents the causal body, the causal state of nothingness. We spoke about the first one, the gross state. This is the second one. The grihas was the subtle body, and this is the causal body. One means forest. This state is symbolized by the darkness and deep silence of a forest. This is the stage which is in which the person is between the ages of 50 and 75 and is supposed to just have completed his household duties and gone into the forest, symbolically gone into the forest to find himself. Here there is only the experience of a void and emptiness. It is a state of utter darkness, and many sadhaks feel fearful in this state and therefore have difficulty in transcending this stage. So this is symbolic of the darkness of the forest where you're alone and you don't know where you're headed. Hence, most people remain stuck here. Just as one can get lost in a forest without help and direction from a guide, most sadhaks can get lost without the help of a spiritual teacher. This is the third stage. Finally, we come to the sannyasa state, which is a state of turya. This is a Sanskrit word turya. Here, even nothingness is dropped. There is only joy perceived, and the sadhak remains immersed in that ocean of pure, unblemished bliss. The principle of Sat Chit Anand. Sat Chit Anand can be translated as truth, consciousness, and bliss. So here the sadhak feels that he has achieved bliss. He has found the ultimate truth, that he is consciousness and he is in that blissful state. Now here is where Ashtavakra explains his point. This verse is explained here. This was the background till now. Ashtavakra says, actually, Ashtavakra is actually trying to declare here that you are beyond all these experiences of the mind and also beyond the four states of consciousness, the four bodies. He says you are even beyond Turiya, or the fourth state of sannyas, as that too is an object. You are beyond every perception. You can never be the object and hence can never be perceived, just as the eye cannot see itself. So this is so brilliant, and I hope you're able to understand this the way Ashtavakra is trying to say it. He says, just as the eye cannot see itself, anything that we are able to see, that I'm at this stage or that stage or this or that or something or the other, you can never be the object. The real you is the perennial subject. It can never be the object of your observation. So there is no way you can point at something and say, this is the real me, because you are that subject, which is the perennial subject. So there is no object. Just as the eye cannot point at itself and say, this is the eye itself cannot see itself. The same way, you cannot see yourself. You can never be the object of yourself. You will remain the subject. And that is the real you. So, I'm getting goosebumps when I'm saying this, because that is the ultimate truth. So let's move on to the next verse from here. Ashtavakra uvacha dharma adharmo sukham dukham manasani nate vibho na kartasi na bhoktasi mukta evasi sarvada. Ashtavakra says in the next verse, righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and are no concern of yours. You are neither the doer nor the reaper of the consequences, so you are always free. So let's understand this. In this relative world of duality, every individual goes through experiences like pleasure and pain, right and wrong, fear and courage, and so on. It is our basic nature to avoid suffering and pain and only accept happiness and joy. In this pursuit, we indulge in various vices and sins. We fail to see what lies beyond the mind, and that is the cause of our suffering, because our constant identification is from the mind, from the personality, from the ego, from the definitions, the roles that we play, that I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, and that's what we think we are. So it is all created by the mind. We are not able to see beyond that, and that is why we are caught up in suffering. All of these experiences exist as long as the mind exists. Beyond the mind, none of these dualities remain. Ashtavakra advises an aspirant to remain steadfast in his sadhana or his spiritual practice, irrespective of whether or not he experiences joy in his meditations, as these are all the workings of the mind. So the mind will tell you 100 reasons to not continue with what you're doing, because it'll tell you that you're not achieving anything, you're not being able to make any progress, just give up on what you're doing. But Ashtavakra is urging you to just stay steadfast. Without a sense of doership and without thinking whether or not he will get anything in return, the aspirant should simply devote whatever time he can in the worship of his sense of beingness. So the aspirant should just be in their own beingness. And I think here I would like to just add that the importance of solitude is so critical here, because if you're constantly surrounded by people, there is no way you will be able to feel your beingness. So take out some time and be with yourself to be able to enjoy the beingness. And we use the word human being, so it's important for us to be human beings and not be human doings and keep on doing some action or the other, and just enjoy the beingness that we are. The individual ego exists so long as the mind exists. This is a very simple thing. And the two are interdependent. The ego and the mind are obviously interdependent. When the mind is transcended, we are able to move beyond the mind, the ego automatically drops. The minute you say you're not the mind, your ego identity has dropped. So the absolute truth is that there is no such thing as mind or ego. They are both false appearances. They are the illusions that we have. We are perennially and always free, but we imagine we are bound by the chains of the mind and the ego. This is the unfortunate fact of our reality. All along we have been bound. We are in a self-created prison wherein we identify ourselves as the mind or the ego, the personality, the roles, all of these layers on top of each other, and that becomes our identity. And the absolute truth is that none of these things exist. The mind doesn't exist, the ego doesn't exist. Ashtavakra uvacha एको दृष्टासि सर्वस्य मुक्तप्रायोऽसि सर्वदा अयमेव हि ते बन्धो द्रष्टारं पश्यसीतरम्. Further on, Ashtavakra says, you are the one witness of everything and are always completely free. The cause of your bondage is that you see the witness as something other than this. So let's understand this. The key word used here by the sage is see. Let's understand what this means. It is common sense that we rightfully believe what we see. There is nothing wrong with that. In fact, we should not have blind faith in anything. So we get kind of dependent on what we see, what we hear, our sense organs, whatever they tell us. So we should be able to see and experience things for ourselves and not simply hold on to what the scriptures or our teachers tell us. We must be ready to verify everything, and a spiritual teacher must be open to allowing a student to do so. But this is again a very important point, that even if you are under a guru or somebody who's guiding you on your spiritual journey, it is very important to be able to question things for yourself. Have that sense of inquiry wherein you don't just blindly believe whatever is being told to you. Even what I'm saying, don't believe it blindly. Feel it for yourself. Feel it from your own experience of what I'm saying, and then only understand what is being said here. So to properly see, we must first learn to actually observe things in depth with a keen and attentive mind. Observation is a really brilliant thing which we don't use, because all of us are mostly busy trying to converse and talk and communicate or listen to the chatter in our minds, and we forget to just be quiet and observe things. However, whatever we see, we become. Ashtavakra says that. So here seeing is also maybe we want to understand that there is a seeing which happens inside us, not just through the two eyes, the sensory eyes. It is here the reference is also to the internal eye, or the third eye within us, which is able to see things. So here, what are we referring to when we say, what I see, I become? What we mean to say here is that you perceive reality on the basis of what you see. That becomes your reality. You do not need anybody else to come and give you an example or a proof of your reality. You know it. For example, you see your gross matter around you, this gross body, and do you not say, I am the body? We do that. Now, the same you, when you go into your dreams at night, watches the dream state. You see it. You identify with the dream state, that dream character. And now you become that astral or subtle body. So whatever dream we are in, we become that body. So we become we are the gross body. When we see the gross body around us, we become the subtle body also. And during your sleep, that dream phase, you do not remember your waking state identity. You now identify with the dream character, whoever it is. Even if you retain your waking state identity in the dream, the character, the situation, everything has changed. The reality itself changes. For example, sometimes in a dream you may feel you're falling down a hill, and sometimes in another dream you may feel that you have taken an examination and that you have failed. New realities emerge in each dream, and those have nothing to do with your present situation. But each dream seems so real. So, what is happening here? The I that we are identifying with, whether it is in the growth state or the dream state, is changing from one situation to the other. That's what is going on. However, when a serious seeker first begins self inquiry or takes up a spiritual pursuit, he observes these two states very minutely and comes to the conclusion. And he's able to finally, on his spiritual journey, be able to understand these facts. He says, I am not the body because I can watch it. I can see my body is an object to me. So I can see that I'm not the body. I'm not my thoughts because I stand independent of them. I'm able to watch it. So here constantly we're talking about seeing. What are the things that you can see? You can see your body. You can see your thoughts. And I can watch my thoughts coming and going. I can watch the rising and falling of my emotions, thoughts, and dreams, and I stand aside of them. So when we go to sleep, I'm able to watch my dreams. I'm able to watch the emotions I feel: anger, love, um, contempt, anxiety, everything. Thoughts, if I get a good thought, a bad thought, I'm able to see everything. So they do not touch me. What is me then? What is I? They are there, but they come and they go. So I am seeing all of this inside me. And there is this concept of neti, which is one of the most important concepts when you're on a spiritual journey, which is I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm not the body, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the mind, I'm not the ego, I'm not the roles, I'm not the personality, I'm not my emotions, I'm not my dreams. I am. So, what am I? I'm able to see all of this. I'm not the body. So, on deeper inquiry within, the seeker encounters the void or the blank, empty space, devoid of any emotions, thoughts, dreams, or images. On seeing that void, he becomes the void or the nothingness. So, this is the causal body. We spoke about the gross body when he's able to, uh, a spiritual aspirant sees that I'm not the body. The spiritual aspirant sees that I'm not the thoughts and the emotions of the subtle body. The aspirant realizes that I'm not the subtle body also. I'm not the gross body. And then the void, the causal body. So on even deeper inquiry, he sees that he's apart from this void as well, and that he lies beyond that state of nothingness. He then discovers an ocean of joy arising and pervading the entire universe, and then becomes that joy, which is the supra causal state, which is above the causal state. So the three states, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body, arise and fall on this joyous state, which is the state of the pure I am. So that is at the foundation level. The rest is all at the superficial level that's going on: the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. So when goes beyond all of this, and the process of self inquiry takes him deeper and deeper, he realizes that all these three states are resting on that state of the pure I am, that joyous state of pure I am. All of the above have only happened because we have cared to look deeply within. Just looking or seeing has done it. We have not attained anything new. We have only seen what was hidden behind our thoughts, emotions, images, dreams, the void, etc. And when we see that, we become that. We started this verse with saying that whatever you see, you become. So when you see that you are none of these things, the body, the thoughts, the emotions, the images, the dreams, or even the blankness, the void, and you are just that I am, and that's what you become. So seeing here is opening that third eye, and all that we did was to see. And we are not seeing outside, we are seeing inside. That is why the entire spiritual journey is inside, inward. So Ashtavakra further states here that the cause of our bondage is that we do not see ourselves as the seer or the witness. So what do we need to do? We need to go into the background where the real I is, where the real consciousness is, and not in the foreground where the emotions, the body, the thoughts, and everything else is going on. So this is perhaps the most important statement made by Ashtavakra in this entire dialogue between Janaka and Ashtavakra. Here he declares that the real I cannot be the object. We are used to objectifying everything, seeing and experiencing objects. But the fact is that a subject can never be an object. The real I is the perennial subject. It can never be the object. We can never point at it and say, that is who I am. You cannot point at your body and say it's you. You cannot point at your mind and say it's you. You cannot point at your emotions and say it's you. So the real you in the background is the real I am. And you cannot, it is the perennial subject. It cannot be pointed at. You cannot be the object of your own observation. So as long as you're becoming something, as long as the observer is present, know that the I still exists for you. This is a very important point, because in a lot of spiritual texts you will come across that you are the observer, you are the witness. That is one stage of it, to realize who you really are. But if you're still stuck there, then you haven't gone further. So this is what happens with many seekers. Many seekers stop their spiritual journey at this stage. So they have some experience of oneness, some experience of nothingness or emptiness, and some experience of joy. They may even become nothingness or joy. They then feel there is nothing more to do, so they stop. But the fact is, as long as they are becoming something, there is an I. Whenever you have reached a stage of something, there is still the I which is remaining. So as long as there is an I who has observed this, the I is still present. The journey, the inquiry has not come to an end. However, most people think that when they reach this stage, they have achieved it, they are enlightened, but that's not the case. Inquiry only comes to an end when there is neither the observer nor neither the observer, neither the observed, and nor the observation. No witness, no witnessing, and no witnessed. Until such time comes, self-inquiry is not complete. So we must not give up self-inquiry until the very end. All the forms of becoming, everything that we have become is false. It is an illusion. As long as we know that I have become something, self-inquiry is not finished. Self-inquiry achieves its goal only when the I becomes unknown, that is, it is non-existent. This is brilliant, and this is the state that we need to reach at. Until and unless we feel that I am the body, I am the mind, I am the emotions, I am the personality, I am the ego, all of that, I'm the, I'm nothingness, even that is a state. till the time you're able to point at something and say that this is the object that I am, you have not reached it. Your journey is not over. You will not be able to say anything that you have become. And when you're one with that oneness, that is the real state of the I am. And that is when the journey of your self inquiry comes to an end. And a lot of people mistake it at several stages, thinking that that's the final stage of enlightenment. And that's not. There is no object left. You are the perennial subject, and you and everything is just one. There is nothing to point towards. There is nothing to be reached. There is no state to be reached. This is all it is. You are already that. You are the I am. So let's end these verses here, and I will tackle the remaining verses in the next section. Thank you so much for listening. Namaste.